Welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church on Zoom. My name is Katherine Osborne, and I'm a worship associate today. I'm joined by Beth Syverson, our Director of Music Ministries, and welcoming you this morning. We're also delighted to have Emily Rousseau-Nusta as well, providing music for you. Reverend Judy, our Director of Religious Education, already held classes for children earlier this morning, and she will offer one for our youth after the service. Our minister, Reverend Sean Wilshire, is currently on sabbatical, but she has a message for all of you.
Welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Reverend Sean Wilshire, and I am so happy that you're here. But I am also really sad that I'm not there to meet you in person, at least not right now. There are two things that I would like you to know. First of all, we have planned a wonderful worship service for you. We work very hard, whether I'm in the pulpit or not, that you get something that is inspiring, that lifts you up, that gives you hope. And I hope that you find that here. The second thing I want you to know is that you are surrounded by some of the most wonderful people that you are ever going to meet. And okay, I'm a little bit biased, but truly, they're wonderful people. So I invite you to reach out to them, as I know that they will also reach out to you. So enjoy the service, and I look forward to meeting you.
But today, our wonderful guest speaker is Reverend Lee Marie Sanchez. Reverend Lee Marie Sanchez was born and raised in Long Beach, attending schools there all the way through college at California State College at Long Beach. She learned about Unitarian Universalism at age 15 from a counselor at Long Beach YMCA. Shortly after, she joined the UU Church of Larger Fellowship and has been a member ever since. It is hard for her to believe that it has been now 57 years. She moved to Washington State, where she was Director of Religious Education for a UU Church with over 100 children. She was also a hospital and hospice chaplain there for 2 large medical centers. Returning to California more than 15 years ago to care for her mother, she finished seminary at UU Theological School, Meadville, Lombard, in Chicago, in their modified residency program. She has served 3 of our congregations here in Southern California, now as minister for our sister congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Church Fellowship of Laguna Beach. She loves preaching for OCUUC. I'd like to invite you to open the chat box, and if you haven't already, say hello this morning. We'll be turning the chat off during the sermon portion of the service as not to distract, but we'll turn it on right afterwards. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together, not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather a covenant. A covenant is simply a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we're committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. I extend a special welcome to visitors. If you're seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you'll find it here. After the service, we'll be placing everyone who remains into Zoom breakout rooms for 20 minutes of coffee and conversation. Everyone is welcome to join in, and it's a great way to get to know people in the congregation. Our worship begins with the lighting of our chalice, the symbol of the Unitarian Universalist tradition, and as we light it, we say our Unison affirmation. If you have a chalice or candle at home, we can light them together. Please join me now as we begin. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. This we affirm together.
Good morning, everyone. Please join me. Once to every soul and nation comes the moment to decide. In the strife of truth
I'd like to offer a great deal of gratitude to all of you for having warmly welcomed me for these several weeks this summer. I have thoroughly enjoyed preaching here, and I do appreciate Reverend Sean inviting me into her pulpit, to Beth Shiverson for her fabulous music and the way she organizes us so well together, and so many other people who have been the technicians and the musicians for these services. This is a real team effort. It takes a church to raise a worship service. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Unitarians and Universalists have said for centuries that there is room in our religion for all seekers. Skeptics and poets and scientists are all welcome here, as are nonconformists and shy and uncertain folks. We believe that restlessness and doubts are signs of grace. The love of truth is the holiest of gifts. These are the words of Reverend Barbara Merritt. Welcome and welcome home. Thank you, Amelia and Beth. That was absolutely stunning. Let us enter into a time and space for meditation, reflection, or prayer. Close your eyes if you wish. Feel yourself sinking into your chair. Take a nice breath in and then let it out long. Let's do that again. In and out. These words are from Walter Jayawardene of Sri Lanka. Be silent. Make your mind calm and maintain it unruffled. Consider your contribution to the betterment of humanity. As you come out of your mother's womb, you commence to inhale the air from the atmosphere. You learn to produce sounds. You learn from the gentle breeze, the rain, and those sounds uttered by birds and animals, from the words spoken by your parents and caregivers. You learn to speak. Human life is the product of divine creation. Divinity is the blend of truth and justice. You are loved right here and right now, just the way you are. "15 years ago now, if you can believe it, in 2005, the Colbert Report debuted on national TV. If you recall, Stephen Colbert, then playing his right-wing populist commentator character, performed a feature he called The Word. His first subject was truthiness. In character, Stephen Colbert said, "Now, I'm sure some of the word police, the wordnistas over there at Webster's, are going to say, hey, that's not a word. Well, anybody who knows anybody knows I'm no fan of dictionaries or reference books. They're elitist. Constantly telling us what is true or not true, or what did or did not happen. Who's Britannica to tell me that the Panama Canal was finished in 1914 if I want to say it happened in 1941? That's my right. I don't trust books," he said. "They're all fact, no heart. Face it, folks, we are a divided nation, divided between those who think with their head and those who think with their heart, because that's where the truth comes from, ladies and gentlemen, the gut." Researchers at the University of California, Irvine came up with an unsettling precondition for truthiness. They determined that it takes less effort to figure out if something is factual and more effort to find if it is an accurate claim. In other words, if a claim snaps neatly into our existing belief structures, we are filled with a sense of comfort, familiarity, and trust, which makes it seem more credible. Those who embrace a conservative ideology, those who have very right-wing political beliefs, are responding to something in our predator-wary neural wiring, needing to manage uncertainty and threat. Maybe this is why they can be so powerfully persuaded about those hordes of immigrants, you know, those ones at the border, so dangerous, so we must build a wall. But what about alternative facts? You see, here's the little golden book of alternative facts. I'm sure that you purchased this for your children and your grandchildren and still hang on to your original copy. Alternative facts was a phrase used by the counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, when she defended the then White House press secretary, Sean Spicer's blatantly false, easily disproven, embarrassingly stupid statement about the attendance at the president's inauguration. The origin of the idea of alternate facts comes from the 1949 fictional dystopian novel 1984 by George Orwell, which portrays a totalitarian state that limited freedom of thought by creating its own language that was called newspeak. Words with negative meanings were removed, like bad became ungood. It was declared that freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, and war is peace. Within days, the false alternative facts about the attendance at the president's inauguration, the publisher of 1984 had to order a 75,000 copy reprint, and the book became Amazon's bestseller in 2016. Daniel Patrick Moynihan, Harvard-honed four-term United States Senator from New York, United Nations Ambassador, and advisor to Presidents John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, and Richard Nixon, famously said, "You are entitled to your own opinions, but you are not entitled to your own facts." This was the man who distinguished himself because he derived his policy positions from research, rather than by cherry-picking statistics to justify the policies. That's how he propelled himself into the forefront of issues like auto safety and climate change, as well as the question of the durability of the Soviet Union. Daniel Joseph Burstein, a conservative, was an American historian at the University of Chicago who wrote on many topics in American and world history. He was appointed the 12th librarian of the United States Congress in 1975, and he served until 1987. In his book in 1961, The Image, A Guide to Pseudo-Events in America, he warned us that we risk being the first people in history to have been able to make their illusions so vivid, so persuasive, so realistic that they can live in them. Media technologies today are so advanced that everyone from Snopes.com to FBI are having difficulties parsing out the real news from the fake news and discerning the validity of videos. The old joke by Groucho Marx, who are you gonna believe, me or your own eyes? Even that is a lot more difficult now. From an article in the Atlanta magazine about his book, Fantasyland, How America Went Haywire, Peabody Award-winning public radio host and writer Kurt Anderson proposes that little by little, then more and more faster during the past half century, we Americans have given ourselves over to all kinds of magical thinking. And most of us haven't even realized how far-reaching our strange new normal has become. He reports that much more than the other billion or so people in the developed world, we Americans believe, really believe, in the supernatural and the miraculous, in Satan on earth, in reports of recent trips to and from heaven, and in a story of life's instantaneous creation several thousand years ago. Think of the willingness of so many people to believe in all kinds of conspiracy theories concerning assassinations or 9/11, AIDS, and lately, vaccines. People could die because they buy into these. We are now familiar with the terms post-factual and post-truth. Perhaps the solidly reality-based are now a minority. Is that us? This is maybe a third of the populace of the United States as a whole. That's pretty scary. More than half the people surveyed in the United States say they're absolutely certain that a physical heaven exists. And just as many are, or more, are sure of the existence of a God that is not a vague force or a universal spirit or a higher power or love, but still that old white guy in the sky who's ready to judge us, sitting up on a throne. Kurt Anderson believes that one reason for this reliance on truthiness is religion. He writes, the GOP is now explicitly a conservative Christian organization. The party is a coalition of mostly white Christians papering over doctrinal and class differences, and now led, weirdly, by one of the least religious presidents ever. Adding that if more and more of a political party's members hold more and more extremely extravagant supernatural beliefs, doesn't it make sense that that party will be more and more open to make-believe in its politics? I think that this is one of the most important reasons to be a Unitarian Universalist, and why I think our faith tradition is essential to our world culture. There have been times, especially when I was a director of religious education, people would arrive at our UU church for the first time and they'd say, "This is great. I'm so glad I can be here because we can believe anything we want." And I'd wince. Hypothetically, yes, of course, Unitarian Universalism has no prescribed statement of belief that all members must believe in. However, our congregations covenant to affirm and promote principles which describe our highest aspirations. These values are sometimes called what are commonly agreed upon among us. They are about how we choose to live best together in the world. Our fourth principle lifts up a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Of course, each of us is on a spectrum, sometimes and somewhere between the poles of rational and irrational doubt and thought, but we take seriously our responsibility. We take seriously our responsibility to hold up the truth. The search for truth and meaning is as old as humankind, and today the best framework for our task is the scientific method. This is unlike what many other religious traditions or spiritual quests may be so comfortable to referring. The scientific method employs both a thoughtful combination of direct experience and reason to parse out fact from fiction, truth from untruths, and what is likely from what is unlikely. Charles Darwin, naturalist and biologist, known for his theory of evolution and the process of natural selection, was born in 1809. This year was his 211th birthday. His theory of evolution by natural selection is universally accepted by scientists in biology and in related fields. By the way, you probably know that Charles Darwin was a British Unitarian. The worrisome thing is that because evolution is not blindingly obvious, it turns out that only about 1/3 of Americans believe that it's true. Now, we, Unitarian Universalists, don't want to err on the one side by accepting ideas and practices which have no grounding in reason, or on the other side in rejecting those which might provide us with new insights, new ideas. Our responsibility in our search for truth and meaning is that we can live with what is real and true at the present, and yet be able to remain open to modifications in the future, if and when our continuing research might yield to us new evidence, new avenues. Added to that, this is going to take time and practice and patience. It might be frightening or uncomfortable to us as this search challenges us. It may even put us at odds with people who we love, or those who perhaps espouse unscientific or supernatural beliefs. But at the heart of our Unitarian Universalist tradition, it has always been, and I hope that it will continue to be so, a devotion to reason. There has been, since the beginning of our joining of our two branches, Unitarianism and Universalism, a tension between mind and spirit, thinking and feeling, reason and intuition. But this can no longer be characterized simply as a humanist versus theist idea, if it really ever was. Today we are liberally using the word spirituality. My definition, which I shared with you a couple weeks ago, is that spirituality is about relationship. The relationship you have with yourself, the relationship you have with others, with your community, and that's something much larger than yourselves, which you might choose to call God or the divine or the cosmos or nature or love. People are sometimes curious if Unitarian Universalists believe in the supernatural. I tell them most of us appreciate the supernatural, that we know that we are all related and everyone is connected to everything else. We must be careful when we use the word spirituality or hear people, or perhaps even ourselves, when we say, I'm more spiritual than religious. But ours is a religion. Our famous ancestor, 19th century Unitarian minister Theodore Parker, who thousands would flock to hear on a Sunday morning, wrote this, which is true for us more than 100 years later. Be ours a religion, which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its creed all truth. The ritual is works of love. I'd like to introduce you to our hymn next by telling you that the lyrics were written by Marion Franklin Ham in 1933 to celebrate the growing relationship between our two faith traditions, Unitarianism and Universalism, realizing the increasing diversity in each of the traditions and that they shared more than whatever could divide them. The Unitarians and the Universalists eventually decided to consolidate. As the final votes were cast to form a new Unitarian Universalist Association in 1961, the assembled body of the heretofore two denominations sang this rousing hymn together to celebrate our new unity. It must have been exciting. Let's take this hymn into our hearts. Amen and blessed be.
As tranquil streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea, our kindred hearts and minds unite to build a church that shall be free from the
Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing one half the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month, we are supporting Community Action Partnership for Orange County. It has worked to enhance the quality of life in Orange County by eliminating and preventing the causes and effects of poverty. They come from all walks of life, rallying to support those in need, ending poverty and building stronger communities. The agency is celebrating more than 50 years for helping people and changing lives. And for more information, check out their website. There are now 3 ways in which you can give online. The first is through our website, www.ocuc.org. The second, through an app called Give. You can download it on the App Store for your smartphone, and once set up, you could use it for any of your online giving, including your pledge. The third method is by texting 714-942-1131. Simply text that number and the message, type them out. As always, thank you for your generosity as the offering is given and received. Please join in singing We Gather Together, a song that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the many gifts we share.
Now is a time when we honor the important events of our lives. You are invited, one and all, whether you are a member or a friend or a visitor, to participate in our weekly ritual of joys and sorrows. Perhaps you've come here today holding something close to your heart, moments from the last days or hours that have struck you at your core. If you'd like to honor such a profound joy or sorrow, you are invited to do so, and you can do this by lighting a candle at home. It's a wonderful way to honor what you are holding in your heart. If you'd like to share a joy or a sorrow with the congregation, you can write it in the chat. Let's spend a few quiet moments in contemplation. We'll hear some music from Beth, and then I will begin reading the joys and sorrows out loud. Please forgive me if I miss a joy or a sorrow, but you can help me not to miss any by waiting to type your comments or to express a joy or a sorrow until we're finished. I have a message of sorrow from Dave Carlson. His only sibling, a younger brother, died yesterday after a brief illness. Jenny Cheyenne wants to share with us a candle of hope for her mother-in-law, who is entering a 6-week series of radiation. Is there anyone else who we have missed? And we have from Linda Clow that she was profoundly moved by the Democratic Convention, and especially the emphasis on compassion. From Kate Cosman, thoughts going out to the residents of the Bay Area who are affected by the fires. And from Jeffrey Silcock, joy, he built his first desktop PC, still getting some kinks out, but very happy with it. Awesome. Let's all hold these joys and sorrows, these celebrations, all the hurts, the sadness, both spoken and silent. Let our joys remind us to be thankful. Our concerns remind us to be hopeful. And our sorrows remind us to connect. Ah, I see one more from Susan Thomas, candle of joy for my sister Betsy, who came to California to drive back home to Beaufort, South Carolina with me safely. Very nice. Let all of the moments and what we have shared remind us that we are not alone. We're never alone. May each of us in our own fashion offer a little prayer for all those joys and sorrows said and unsaid this morning.
Let us join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say together, we extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. We are a congregation made up of people who all believe differently. And yet when we gather together, virtually or otherwise, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you're a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't yet been known to us, I invite you to become part of this beloved community, with even just for today. We encourage you to write in the chat your name and where you're from. If you'd like to know more about our church, please see our church website for ways you can get involved and sign up for a weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuuc.org. If you'd like to know more about membership, please contact us at membership@ocuuc.org. Our community is enriched by its visitors, guests, and friends, and we hope that they find a spiritual home here. We want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community, so please reach out and we'll help you get connected. After the benediction, we'll have a short period where everyone can wave and say hello, and those that remain will be put into Zoom breakout groups for 20 minutes if you so choose. We invite you to check in and get to know the people in your groups and welcome any visitors. Thank you. Oh, we also have announcements. Hey, okay. So we have some fun announcements today. So today we have the Transgender Inclusion and Congregations video course at 12:15 p.m. I thoroughly suggest all you guys check it out if you can. And then some upcoming stuff we have social justice movie night, Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. And we have choir rehearsal and social hour, and we have so many cool things. So I highly suggest you check these out if you want to get involved.
I want to circle back to our joys and sorrows because we have two more joys, which I think would like to be shared. From Justin Brandon, a joy. We celebrated our youngest daughter's birthday this week, Ariel. We are incredibly grateful for all we have been given. Thank you, thank the universe and God. And from Alex Bailey, I reconnected with a cousin yesterday. A healthy 2-hour conversation with someone in my bio family was a great joy. Thank you. Our words for the benediction today come from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which I have adapted for this morning. This is where we are. Where do we go from here? First, we must massively assert our dignity and worth. We must stand up amidst a system that still oppresses and develop an unassailable and majestic sense of values. What is needed is a realization that power without love is reckless and abusive, and that love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. And justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. And this is what we must see as we move on. Go in peace, go in love, return again, and let us sing our parting song.
Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me.
The service is over. Let our service continue.